relationships will go through. And I give it all away just so I could say that. But I know that you're gonna be okay anyway. You know there's no rhyme or reason for the way you turned out to be. I didn't go and try to change my mind, not intentionally. I know it's hard to hear you say it, but I can't bear to stay. And I just know that you're gonna be okay anyway. Always keep your heart locked tight. Don't let your mind read fire. Oh, but I just couldn't take it. I tried out to beg it, but I fumbled, and when it came down to the wire, it felt bad. It felt right. Oh, but I fumbled, and when it came down to the wire, it felt bad. It felt right. Oh, but I fumbled, and when it came down to the wire, it's your imagination trying to make you what you want it to be. Because I'm sorry I do what I did, but it came naturally, and I gave it away just so I could say that. Well, I know that you're gonna be okay anyway. When I tried to keep myself together after all the opportunities, I tried to stay true to you and I tried to do what you wanted from me, and I gave it away just to hear you say that. Well, I know that you're gonna be okay anyway. Always keep your heart locked tight. Don't let your mind read fire. Oh, but I just couldn't take it. I tried to beg it, but I fumbled, and when it came down to the wire, it felt bad. It felt right. Oh, but I fumbled, and when it came down to the wire, it felt right. It felt right. Oh, but I fumbled, and when it came down to the wire, always keep your heart locked tight. Don't let your mind read that. Always keep your heart locked tight. Don't let your mind read that. Oh, but I just couldn't take it. I tried to beg it, but I fumbled, and when it came down to the wire, but I just couldn't take it. I tried to beg it, but I fumbled, and when it came down to the wire, it felt right. It felt right. Oh, but I fumbled, and when it came down to the wire, it felt right. It felt right. to what you can. You hold on, you holding on, but when you can, you just let go and do your hippie dance. Wait to find a crazy ride. You see the road, but you don't take it. You fight to lead a different life, but you won't change it. You hold on, you hold.
Good morning, everybody. Will you guys stand up and worship with us? I was lost with a broken heart. You picked me up, now I'm set apart. From the ash I am born again, forever safe in the Savior's hands. You are more than my words could say. I'll follow you over all my days. Fix my eyes, follow in your ways. Forever free in unending grace. 'Cause you are my freedom. Lift you higher, lift you higher. You love, never end. Oh, oh, oh. You love us, nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. Whoa. In the midst of the darkest night, you let your love be the shining light. Break the chains that were holding me. Sent your sun down and set me free. And everything of this world will fade. Pressing on till I see your face. I will live that your will be done. I won't stop till your kingdom come. 'Cause you are my freedom. Lift you higher, lift you higher. Your love, never end. Oh, oh, oh. Your love in us, nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. Whoa. You are my freedom. We lift you higher. You are my freedom. We lift you higher, lift you higher. Your love, never end. Oh, oh, oh. Your love in us, nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. You are alive in us, nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. Whoa. Whoa. Come thou fount of every blessing, tune my heart to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnet, sung by flaming tongues above. Praise the mount I'm fixed upon it, mount of thy redeeming love. Here I raise my Ebenezer, hither by thy help I come, and I hope by thy good pleasure safely to arrive at home. Jesus told me when a stranger, wandering from the fold of God, He to rescue me from danger, interposed His precious blood. Daily I'm constrained to be. Let thy grace now like a feather bind my wandering heart today. Thrown to wander, Lord, I feel it. Thrown to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, Lord, take it. Feel it for like ports of love. Thrown to wander, Lord, I feel it. Thrown to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, Lord, take and seal it. Seal it for like ports of love. Come thou fount of every blessing, tune my heart to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnet, sung by flaming tongues above. Praise the mount I'm fixed upon it, mount of God's unchanging love. I wanna be close, close to your side, so heaven is real and death is a lie. I wanna hear voices of angels above, singing as one. Hallelujah, holy, holy, God Almighty, the great I am, who is worthy, none beside thee. You're the God Almighty, the great I am. I wanna be near to your heart, loving the world and hating the dark. I wanna see dry bones living again, singing as one. Hallelujah, holy, holy, God Almighty, the great I am, who is worthy, none beside thee, the God Almighty, the great I am. You're the great I am. You're the great I Mountains shake before you, their demons run and flee. At the mention of your name, King of majesty, there is no power in hell, nor any who can stand before the power and the presence of the great I am, the great I am, the great I am. Great I am, the great I am, the great I am. into a time of communion here this morning. And this is how we choose to recognize the sacrifice that Jesus made for us. And we choose to remember that we were lost and caught up in darkness and sin and iniquity, and that our God paved the way for us to live a life of authenticity and intimacy and love with him. By sending his son to hang on a cross and to bleed and to die, he opened the way to freedom for each and every one of us. So if you're unfamiliar, what's going to happen is a tray is going to go up and down the aisle with a little wafer and a cup of juice. Take one of each of those and take it on your own time. We're not going to come back up and take it together. Let this be a moment for you just to be still before our God and to be grateful for all that has been done for us. And not out of a spirit of guilt, but out of a spirit of thanksgiving that we have been rescued and redeemed, and there's nothing that we have to do to earn it. All we have to do is reach out and take it. If you haven't been here with us before, you're going to hear those little plastic cups shattering all around the room. And it's the symbol that it's finished, that the work of the cross is all that it took. Those things that held us in bondage are broken and shattered and will never have power over us again. And if this is all super weird and you're not really sure what this is, and you're not really sure where you stand on the whole God thing, first of all, thank you so much for being here. It's a huge step for you to even walk into a place like this, not knowing where you stand, and I want to honor the courage that it took for you to walk in here this morning, so thank you for that. There's no pressure for you to participate in this with us. Just pass the tray on, keep it moving. You are safe and welcome. No one's going to judge you, ask you to leave, look at you weird, anything like that. If you have questions about what this is, there'll be an opportunity later. But just know that you are safe and welcome, and we are thrilled that you are here with us this morning. So let's pray, and then we will share in that meal together. God, we just thank you for this place where we can come and be reminded of what you've done for us. We can remember that you saw fit to pay an enormous price so that you could share in this life with us, God. God, we thank you that you have invited us to continue to participate in rescuing those around us. We ask that you continue to push us in the direction that you need us to go, and that we be open and receptive to what it is you're saying to us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Well, I mean, the truth is, I was going to do this last year, but then life got in the way, and winter came in, and so this year I made it a priority. Waited till the end. I mean, this is the late as we can do it, I think. But I just want to let everybody know at DCC and all my family and everybody that I'm in love with Jesus Christ, and that's pretty much it. It's that simple. I don't know if this is proper, but I kind of wanted to do it Jesus style. That's all I've been saying to people, just natural. And plus, this place has significance to me because on that rock across the lake is where I proposed to my wife, Merity, and it just means a lot out. We come here all the time to hike, and this is just a beautiful place, and it's closer to God. I feel closer to Him when I'm up here. Well, of course, I'd like to thank my wife, Merity, amazing woman, strong Christian woman. Stu, who's taken the time out of his busy schedule to take the day off to come out here and baptize me. I know it's individual, but I'd like to thank in my men's groups. Those guys have been amazing. That was one of my big prayers, was to surround myself with a lot of Christian guys that are just strong Christians talking about Jesus all the time. You know, make our way through this world and just help each other, and it's been an amazing journey with these men.
Hi, I'm Stu Andrews, and today I am honored to be baptizing Michael. I've never met anybody that's been so on fire for Christ, and I am just so honored to be part of his big day, and just blessed that he and I are able to walk together as men and brothers in Christ. I just am so thankful that God brought us together following the whole we live life in circles and not rows. And he's definitely in my circle. And I love that man to death.
I just wanted to do this with, you know, free will and me making the decision, and baptism means just outwardly expressing how I feel on the inside. Just letting everybody know.
DCC was the first church that I've actually ever gone to, ever been with. You know, I didn't know a lot growing up, family that didn't go to church, really didn't know anything about it, but I was given the opportunity by God to meet my wife. I thank her for the opportunity that I've been given. She kind of dragged me to DCC. Talking to Mark, my mentor here in the church, talking with Pete and Joe, talking with my wife, I saw, you know, how the first baptisms went, and I kind of thought it was important to me to kind of just get that feeling of what it was like, you know, to be baptized. I'm also doing it with Michael. We're in a military group together, so he's my support out here, as well as me being supportive for him. So first off, I want to thank my wife. If it wasn't for her, my path and my walk with Jesus, it wouldn't be there. I don't know where I would be at right now. I know through her, she's brought me into the church, and maybe, you know, I've started to read and research and listen. I also want to thank Mark, Joe, Pete, the security team, everybody that volunteers at DCC. They made my time there extra special.
So my name is Mark Lambert. I met Jared a little while ago. He was volunteering for the security team, and I just noticed a guy that was very involved and seemed to have a really good heart, really good disposition. I'm really excited for Jared today. I was very honored and feel privileged that he asked me to baptize him today here out at Rampart Reservoir. I'm just excited to do it for him, and I love his heart, and he's in the right place.
For me, this is kind of a beginning for me. I feel like getting baptized is going to be kind of a start for me, and moving my life forward with my family, my friends, and the church.
You guys stand with us as we celebrate those stories together. You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemy. blood flows through my veins. 'Cause I'm no longer a slave to fear, 'cause I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear, 'cause I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear, 'cause I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear, 'cause I am a child of God. I am surrounded by the arms of the Father. I am surrounded by songs of deliverance. We've been liberated from all bondage. We're the sons and the daughters. Let us sing our freedom. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears are drowned in perfect love. You rescued me and I was standing still. I am a child of God. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears are drowned in perfect love. You rescued me and I was standing still. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. 'Cause I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear, 'cause I am a child of God. You guys can have a seat. God, we just continue to thank you for this place where we can come and worship you and just hear what it is that you have for us. We ask that you allow us to be open to hear what it is that you have to share with us this morning. In your name we pray. Amen.
So you know that song, No Longer Slaves, is one of my wife Stacy's favorite worship songs. It's become one of mine too. I'm no longer a slave to fear. If you think about it, that's a pretty significant statement. This past Wednesday, I was at a 'Cause I Love You meeting downtown in our 'Cause I Love You offices downtown. You know what that is? It's a multi-church movement here in our city where we're trying to show the love of Jesus, no strings attached to our city. Several churches coming together. So I'm sitting in this board meeting, I'm sitting at a table, and I look up on the wall, and there's this quote from C.S. Lewis. I want to show you this quote. I'm going to throw it on the screens for you. It says, "In such a fearful world, we need a fearless church." Now, I've read a lot of C.S. Lewis in my lifetime, and I had never come across that quote before. And so as I read it, and I was sitting there, I was like, yes, something inside of me started stirring up. I found myself getting a little bit emotional. Yes, that's who we need to be. It's true, it's true, it's true. We need a fearless church. The world needs a fearless church. It's true. It's true in C.S. Lewis's time, way before I was born. It's true in this day and time too. But so is this. At the same time, so is this. The church will only be fearless to the extent that the people sitting inside it are fearless. And see, what I'm trying to say is this. Our fear is a big deal. Our fear is getting in the way of what the church can be. It's not only getting in the way of what the church can be, it's getting in the way of the life that Jesus came to bring you and me. And so having said that, that's not what this series is about. This series is not about our fear, but we cannot work through and talk through all the stuff that we need to work through and talk through in this series without acknowledging that this is true. Our fear is a problem for us. So hang on to that, and we're going to talk more about that. It's going to come up from time to time as we take this journey together over the next several weeks. Okay, there it is. Hey, before we go there and before we kick off this series today, we just always want to say good morning to you and welcome to this place we call DCC. And we want to commend you for having the courage. Like Wade said, commend you for having the courage to overcome your fear. And we're glad you're here. But that's especially true if you're a brand new friend here for the very first time. If that's you, we want you to know this. Listen, thanks for braving the elements this morning, the blizzard. It's barely snowed. I mean, come on. And all you online people, really? That's all I'm saying. Okay, no, thanks for being there. No, but if you're a brand new friend here and you're sitting here today, we know it took some courage to come in here. We want you to know you're in a safe place full of people who are exactly like you. And we know your time's precious to you, especially your weekend time. So thanks for investing a little bit with us. We hope you leave here having had a good experience and wanting to come back and do this all again with us real soon. So thanks for being with us today. It's also a good day to be here for the first time because we're kicking off a brand new series today called Code. Now, I have to be careful with that word because I'm from Kentucky. And people have accused me of saying, hey, I just caught a code. It's because I don't really say cold. Okay, but that's not what I'm talking. I'm not talking C-O-L-D. It's on there it is right there. C-O-D-E. When you look up this word, it's kind of the topic of the series. In the dictionary, you'll see that it's a set of laws, rules, regulations, or standards that a certain group of people, that kind of govern the behavior of a certain group of people. So, knowing that, we've got all kinds of those kind of things in the church. There's all kinds of variations of that. We've all experienced different variations of that, but there's a typical church code. In general terms, the church code tends to go like this. All right? You got to believe the right things, learn and know the right stuff, and you got to behave the right way. It's kind of a three-part code. I don't know if you're like me, but I grew up in church. And so for me, my experience growing up in church was I tried that code over and over and over again. But for me, it was like having the wrong combination to the lock. So I give a little bit of believing the right things, a little bit of knowing the right stuff, a little bit of behaving the right way, only to pull on the lock and have nothing happen at all. It didn't unlock anything for me. So I started thinking, well, maybe it's a secret code. Maybe it's a secret code. I got to figure this out. It's like the combination to the safe that I got to crack or I've got to figure out so that I can open the safe and benefit from everything that it's on the inside. Well, the good news for all of us this weekend and as we head into this series is this. It is not at all a secret code. In fact, all the pieces are right here in this book that we read from and learn from every single week. All we have to do is piece it all together. Now, having said that, I want to be really careful as we walk into this series together today. Please hear me say this. We do not have the market cornered in this place on walking with God. We don't have the market cornered on what this life to the fullest thing that Jesus came to bring us looks like. We don't. We don't have it all figured out. We don't have the market cornered. Last time I checked, there were been many, many people who were doing this for years, even centuries before this church ever existed. And so all I'm trying to say to you today is this. I unsuccessfully searched for this code in my own life for 40 plus years. And together, we've found it here in this place over the last 10 years. So to quote one of my heroes, Brennan Manning, and no, he's not Peyton's brother. That's Eli. We need to pray for him. He's having a bad year. Right? We also need to pray for the Broncos. They play the Rams today. Yikes. All right, so anyway, Brennan Manning. Okay, I'm back. Brennan Manning, okay? Brennan Manning, to quote Brennan Manning, I'm just a beggar telling another beggar where to find bread. You see, even though it's not a secret code, the truth is a lot of us continue to miss it, and that's why we're doing this series. That's what we're after in this series. And so as we walk into this, as we walk into this together, as we start to unpack this code, as we start to take this journey into this series, I want us to start today by talking about the invitation conversation. Now, when I say that, well, the first thing that comes to mind for me is an episode of The Big Bang Theory, right? The invitation conversation. It sounds like Sheldon. It's not, okay? It's not that, but it is. I want to tell you what it is. It is one of the easiest steps toward the life that we all came in here looking for this morning, that a lot of us, for somehow, some way, for some reason, continue to miss. And that's why we're going to talk about it before we get out these doors together today. All right, so let's jump in and let's do that. John chapter 9. John chapter 9 is where we're going to be today. So this is the part, if you brought a Bible, you want to get it out, you can. You can track along with us. There's Bibles on the back tables. If you want one, you can get it there. If you can't get it now, grab one on your way out. We always give them away as gifts to you. Hit our app, hit our website if you want to do that. Our YouVersion, I'm sorry, not our website. That won't help you, I don't think. Hit YouVersion, or you can just track with me on the screens as we read these verses. Let me give you a little bit of setup as we walk into the story together today. Jesus is walking down the road. He sees a man who's been born blind, been blind since he was born. So Jesus spits in the dirt road, spits in the dirt, makes a little mud, puts it in the man's eyes, and then he tells this man to go wash his eyes out in a pool nearby. The man goes and does that, and he is healed, which is great. That's an amazing story, but the question is, okay, that's great, but what does that have to do with you and me? Well, let's jump into the story together today, and let's see. So John chapter 9, we're going to pick it up in verse 13. They brought to the Pharisees the man who had been blind. Now the day on which Jesus had made the mud and opened the man's eyes was a Sabbath. Therefore the Pharisees also asked him how he had received his sight. He said, "He put mud on my eyes," the man replied, "and I washed, and now I see." And some of the Pharisees said, "This man is not from God, for he does not keep the Sabbath." But others asked, "Wait a minute, how can a sinner perform such signs?" So they were divided. They're arguing. Then they turned again to the blind man. "What have you to say about him? It was your eyes he opened." And the man replied, "He is a prophet." Okay, let's stop right there. Here's the reason why I want us to focus on this conversation. All right, because a big part of the church population, Christians, Christ followers, what Jesus followers, whatever you want to call us, a big part of the church population has trouble doing what this man who doesn't even know who Jesus is in this moment is doing here. What am I talking about? I'm talking about walking into a conversation about Jesus. Now, as I say that, I want to be clear about this. This is not about evangelism. And this is not about knocking on doors, going door to door. It's not about memorizing verses or memorizing a script. It is not about sitting down and trying to convince someone that we're right. That is not what this is about. I'm not saying that stuff's not important. It is important. I'm just saying that's not what today is about, and that's not really what we're going to unpack as we continue to walk forward in this series. This man in this story is not trying to convert or evangelize anyone. And while that is true, there's some really great lessons here for me and for you. So let's talk about that. Let's start with this. First lesson for today is this: don't wait until you have all the answers. As we think about walking into conversations about Jesus, don't wait until you have all the answers. As I read this story, two things apparent to me really from the get-go. Boom. Number one, this dude doesn't have a clue who Jesus is. Number two, unless Jesus were to say something to him, he couldn't pick him out of a lineup. Think about it. Think about it. Jesus makes some mud, puts it in his eyes, his already blind eyes, tells him, go over there to that pool and wash out the mud. And he does that, but there's no indication that Jesus followed him there. So this guy probably doesn't even know what Jesus looks like. He definitely doesn't know who Jesus is in this moment, and yet here he finds himself what? In the middle of a conversation about Jesus. What's the point? The point is this. Here's a guy who doesn't believe, who's doing something that most of us who do believe really struggle to do. Walk into a conversation about Jesus. I've been doing this for about 20 years now. I've been in ministry. I got ordained about 20 years ago. It's hard to believe. Time flies. But Having said that, here's what I want you to know. I still struggle with the stuff that we're talking about today. So if you're feeling pressure in this, don't. Me too. I mean, I read and study my Bible a lot, not because I have to, because I want to, but I'm not a Bible scholar. I'm not. I have so many friends that are so much smarter than me when it comes to Bible stuff. I can't read Greek and I can't read Hebrew. I can't, but I have this really cool software called Logos that does it for me. It's amazing, right? I can't do that. I'm not an expert in apologetics or defending the faith. There's people that are a lot better than that. In fact, I can't even quote chapter and verse like some of you can. You'll come up to me and you'll start boom, 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 firing this stuff off. I can't even do that. And so all that to say, I still find myself in conversations where Jesus comes up and I feel uneasy. And even though it's true, and God says, when you walk into those conversations, I'll give you the words to say. The Holy Spirit will do that. And he does it every single time. And I scratch my head afterwards. I go, wow, I navigated that, or God navigated that in me pretty well. You know, there it is. There still is rarely a conversation in my life today where at some point in the conversation I'm going, wow, I wish I'd studied more. I wish I was more knowledgeable. I wish I was more studied up. I wish I was more educated. And my guess is I'm not alone in that. Am I? No, because we sit here and we go, you know what? Someday I'm going to get there. Like, I'm going to take all the church classes. I'm going to take 101, 201, 301, 401, 1001, all the 01s we offer. And we don't do that here, but you get the point. And so I'm going to take the church class on world, missions and world evangelism, and then I'm going to memorize these 3 chapters or in this script, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then I'll be ready to go. See, I need to wait until I have most, or all of the answers. This is fairly common amongst us church people. You know what else it is? It's the thing that tends to keep us fairly quiet too. Now, having said that, I want to flip to the other side. All right? Because what I'm not suggesting here, this is not about you trying to interject Jesus into every single conversation. Because that can get really weird really fast. Right? We've all experienced this. You ever been there? You're sitting with a friend in a restaurant. So, what would you like? Oh, I'd like the Reuben. Well, okay, great. What would you like for your side? Well, for my side, I'd like. Wait, before I get to my side, can I tell you about my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? I mean, come on, that's just weird. I mean, that's weird. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't be bold about our faith. We should be bold. I'm not saying God can't and doesn't use that stuff. I mean, read the Old Testament. God spoke through a donkey once. He can speak through donkeys like us. I'm just saying, okay? He can. I get that. We had a guy in our church several years ago. He quit the church. He was upset with me because I didn't endorse his way of doing this. His way was this. He pulled up to a red light next to someone, and he'd tell him, roll down the window. You ever been there? That's kind of scary in the world we live in, but some people are still nice, and they say, hey, your tire's low or your brake light's out and all of that. And I was driving down Powers this morning to come to the church, and the guy next, the tire was really, really low, and I kept looking at him, and he wouldn't even look at me, so I didn't get to do this. But so you tell him, put your window down. Last night I said window. That's a Kentucky thing. So window, put your window down, and they do that, and he would say, he would just inform them that if they don't know Jesus, they're on a path to hell. Great. Is that true? Don't do that, okay? Don't do that. Listen, I don't know where you fall on this stuff. I really don't, but I know that most of us land right here. Most of us would be a lot more comfortable if we had more answers. True, isn't it? Yeah, it is. And so we wait. We hesitate. We pause, hoping that someday when I have more answers, I'll be able to do this. There's a question. There's a question that goes on in our minds. I don't think we think about much. It goes like this. What if they ask me a question I don't know the answer to? That's a great question, isn't it? That's a question that keeps most of us out of the conversations altogether. And here's the good news. That's a question that our unchurched, unbelieving friend in the story is getting ready to help us with. So watch this. Okay, let's keep reading. Verse 24. A second time they summoned the man who'd been born blind. Give glory to God by telling the truth, they said, like he didn't tell the truth the first time. They said, we know this man is a sinner. And he replied, whether he's a sinner or not, I don't know. One thing I do know, I was blind, but now I see. And then they ask him, what did he do to you? And how did he open your eyes? And he answers, I've told you already, and you didn't listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become his disciples too? I love this guy. And then they hurled insults at him and said, you're this fellow's disciple. We're disciples of Moses. We know that God spoke to Moses, but as to this fellow, we don't even know where he comes from. Okay, so we skipped over a part of the story. They throw him out. They bring his parents in. They question his parents, and then they bring him in for a second time. So here he is. He doesn't choose this conversation, but here he is yet again having another conversation about this guy, Jesus. And they ask him all these questions: what, who, when, how, where. You know, they ask all these questions. He's like, I don't know. 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 They ask, I don't know. I don't know. Let me tell you, though, what I do know. I am absolutely, completely, 100% convinced, beyond a shadow of a doubt, this is true. You want to hear it? I was blind, but now I see. Another great lesson from our friend here who doesn't even believe in Jesus. So first lesson, hey, don't wait till you have all the answers. And the second lesson is this, all right? Speak from experience, not expertise. Speak from experience, not expertise. When I read this story, here's what jumps off the page at me. This man has no problem with a simple three-word answer that you and I really struggle with. You know what it is? I don't know. Now that's confusing. I do know the answer. The answer is I don't know, okay? So the three words are I don't know. Are we clear on that? All right, so back when I was practicing law, there were two big no-nos in the courtroom. There was actually more than two. I'm going to give you two. One of them was, you cannot say to a jury, hey, just put yourself in the shoes of the victim. You can't do that, all right? So if I'm sitting here at counsel table, and I've got an assault victim sitting next to me, and you're the jury, I can't say, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, all you need to do in this case is just imagine what he's gone through. Put yourself in his shoes. It's an immediate mistrial. So, if you ever find yourself defending yourself in court, all right, here's a pointer for you. First of all, there's a wise proverb, not proverb from the Bible, I need to make that clear. Proverb that says the person who represents themselves in court has a fool for a client. Just saying, okay? So, but if you ever find yourself in there, right, you can't do that. Don't say, put yourself in my shoes. You can't, you just can't do that. I mean, if you think about it, though, Matlock didn't even represent himself. He didn't. And some of the kids in here are like, Matlock, who's that? Ask your mom. Google it. Something like that. All right, so number one, no, put yourself in the shoes of the victim. Second no was this. Never ask a question you don't already know the answer to. Why? Because you do not want a bad answer coming out in front of the jury. All right, so I'm not going to ask the question because I don't know the answer. That's not too far off from what we're talking about. I'm not going to walk into the conversation because I don't have all the answers. I saw a different version of this with my daughter Stella, my youngest 16-year-old daughter Stella, not too long ago. End of summer, she applied for a job at Chick-fil-A. Her oldest sister Sid had worked at Chick-fil-A, so I'm going to get a job at Chick-fil-A. Yay! She goes through the interview process. She doesn't get the job. She was pretty distraught about that. But then she applied at Dutch Brothers. And she's so excited because she wants to work at Dutch Brothers. So she fills out the application and she gets this interview at Dutch Brothers. Now let me say something about that. I haven't quite figured this thing out yet, but here's the deal. Apparently, in the mind of teenagers, working at Dutch is like the equivalent of working for Jesus Christ himself. I don't get it, right? It's like go Dutch or go home. I said that last night. That's a Greg Lindsay original. It's going to be a sticker, I promise you. But you know, it's like, what is going on? It's like a culture, but she was so excited. This is her dream job, right? And now she works there, and it's insane. She loves her job right out here in our parking lot at Dutch Brothers. But here's what I saw going into that interview. What if they ask me a question I don't know the answer to? All this fear, right? We do not like the way that these three words, I don't know, feel as they roll off of our tongues. That's true with anything important. It's true with the job. It's true with the relationship. It's even true with our faith. I mean, I get it. I really do. I feel it. I have conversations with you all every single weekend out in the lobby by the fireplace. And some of you are a lot smarter than me. You really, really are. And some of you are more educated than me, more seminary educated than me. Some of you have PhDs and all kinds of craziness like that. And you're brilliant. And a lot of you, you've studied like this, whatever you're asking me about, you studied it like down into the weeds. And so you're quoting chapter and verse, and my head's just spinning. Oh, you know, it's like, whoa. And so you know what I've learned? You know what I've learned to do in those moments? I've learned, here's the perfect answer. You ready? Write this down. I don't know. It is. It's a perfect three-word answer. I don't know. We're scared to death of it, but it's the right answer. I've come up with a two-word answer. It's even better than that. Ask Pete. If you don't know who Pete is, he's my executive pastor. He's a smart dude, right? So write this down, okay? You get in these conversations with your friends? I don't know, ask Pete. 5-word answer. It will serve you well, okay? Listen, I'm not saying that studying in our Bibles and reading our Bibles is not important. It's really, really important. It changed your life. I'm not saying there's not a time and place for you to take your Bible and sit down with a friend and say, let's see if we can figure this thing out. Yeah, I mean, that's great. There's a time and place for that. There's a time and place for apologetic arguments too. But what I want you to hear from me today is this. People can argue with your theology. They cannot argue with your personal experience. And that's what we're seeing in this story here. They're trying to poke holes into the theological and argue theology with him. He's like, I don't know. Let me tell you what I do know. What I'm pointing you to is what our friend is pointing us to here, the power of his own story. And so they keep asking these questions. I don't know who he is. I don't know how he did it. I don't know exactly what he did. I don't know. But here's what I do know. Because of what this man did, my life will never be the same. Every single one of us in this room that is trying our best to follow Jesus has that in our toolbox. Every single one of us in this room that's trying to follow Jesus has our own version of that statement. See, most of the time, here it is, most of the time, what people need most is not an expert. What they need most is a friend. So, not many of us are experts, right? Not all of us can speak from expertise, but the beauty of the story is this. All of us can speak from our own experience. Well, let's finish this up. We're going to pick it up in verse 30. So the man answered, now that's remarkable. You don't know where he come from, yet he opened my eyes. And we know that God does not listen to sinners. He listens to the godly person who does his will. Nobody has ever heard of opening the eyes of a man born blind. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing. To this they replied, you were steeped in sin at birth. How dare you lecture us? And they threw him out. And Jesus heard that they'd thrown him out. And when he found him, he said, do you believe in the Son of Man? Who is he, sir? The man asked. Tell me so that I may believe in him. And Jesus said, look right here. Now you have seen him. In fact, he's the one speaking with you. And the man said, Lord, I believe. And he worshiped him. So finally, we get to the end of the story. And this man believes in Jesus. It's not the way it's supposed to work, is it? Jesus healed him before he saved him. Wait a minute. That something feels off about that. Think about it. This man is what? He's talking about Jesus. He's answering questions about Jesus. He's pointing people to Jesus. He's telling people, you got to check this guy Jesus out for yourself. And yet what? His own rescue is not even complete. This guy who has not put his faith and trust in Jesus yet is pointing people to Jesus better than most people today who've known Jesus for a long time are pointing people to Jesus. What am I getting to? I'm getting to the code. It's a part of the code. It's a part of the code that we point to. It's a part of the code that we all try to live by the best we can in this place. We keep coming back to this over and over again in our own lives and stories. What am I talking about? I'm talking about this. You have been rescued and continue to be rescued. To rescue. Rescued to rescue. Rescued to rescue. Rescued to rescue. We just sang a song, No Longer Slaves. Love the song? You rescued me, and I will what? I'm going to stand and sing like we did. My experience has been Christian people are really good at that. But did he just rescue us so we could stand and sing? No. You rescued me so that I could also help you what? Rescue other people. See, I don't expect you to be fanatical about this. I don't expect you to go get it tattooed on your arm in Hebrew like I did, rescue to rescue. I mean, you can if you want. I mean, you're like, whoa, Jesus said no tattoos. Hang on, we'll talk about that later. I don't expect you to do that, but we have to keep coming back to this. Our mission statement here at DCC in this place is helping people discover their story, experience Jesus, and live on mission. And even though missional and living on mission are terms that are used all over the place in churches all over the world today, sometimes I think we're still not really clear about what that means. So here at DCC, we've said, hey, here's 6 ways that we've kind of carved out that you can live your life on mission. I live my life on mission when invite, serve, give, connect, lead, worship becomes a regular part of my daily life. Now, here's the thing. I was looking at it this past week. I was looking at our 3 circles. I'm not going to put it up today, but most of you know what I'm talking about. We got these 3 circles, discover your story, experience Jesus, live on mission. I was staring at the live on mission circle, And for some reason, for the first time, Live on Mission felt a little bit off to me. And it's not because it's overused and so many churches are using the terminology. I was reading, it just felt flat. It felt obligational. It felt go through the motions. And so for today, I want you to think of living on mission this way. Live to rescue. I want you to think live to rescue. I need to discover my story. I need to experience Jesus in my life and in my story. And I need to live to rescue. Why do I like live to rescue better for purposes of today in this series? Because live to rescue has a sense of urgency to it that live on mission doesn't. That there is a necessity with live to rescue. There's like, I must do something here. There's no question. I've got to act. This is urgent. And I think we've lost that in the church, and I think we've got to get back to a sense of urgency in the church. So what if you and I began to live our lives as if somebody else's life depended on it? What if we lived our lives as combat medics? And you may not be familiar with it. We talk about that some here. We're going to talk about it a lot more because I'm just seeing it more and more clearly. Combat medic. I'm not a surgeon. I don't have it figured out. I can't fix everything. But there's a broken, wounded, hurting, bleeding person in front of me. I'm going to do something helpful here. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm simply going to do what I can do. Why? Because I live to rescue. Now I want to dial this into specifics. Just really, really easy concept for us to walk out of here with today, all right? This is what I want you to think about today, tomorrow, and the rest of this week. I want you to think about the invitation conversation. Some of us can be experts, not all of us. I want to give us something that all of us can do. Here's what we call it here. We call it come and see. Where those words come from, it's what a lot of the disciples said to their friends and family members as they began to follow Jesus. Some of them had only been following him for a few hours. Come and see for yourself. Come and see for yourself. Well, what if? You don't have all the answers. Get it. I don't either, right? But you have your own experience. What if you spoke from your own experience and simply said, come and see for yourself? What if that's the role that you play in the rescue of your coworker, your family member, and your friend? So you say, come and see for yourself, and they do come and see, and they come, and they bump into, and they come, they see, they bump into, they experience Jesus, and all of a sudden, boom, their life begins to change, and they look at you, and they say, my life will never be the same because of you, because you invited me here. I'm going to tell you something. Some of the sweetest words you will ever hear. It changed your life. And despite that, you know what's true? It's the people who are on the verge of believing in Jesus and the people who have just put their faith and trust in Jesus are the very best at saying, come and see. The further we move into this thing we're doing today called church, the longer we've been a part of this thing called church, the less likely we are to say, come and see. The gravitational pull on every single church is to be focused on keeping people rather than reaching and rescuing people. And that is not the code that Jesus gave us. And that's not how the church started. You read in the book of Acts how the church started. It was all about invitation. It was like, come and see, come here. Let me tell you about this guy, Jesus. Get in here in my house. They met together in their homes and in the temple courts, and they had everything in common. It's like this community of, you got to hear about this guy, Jesus. You got to bump into and experience this guy, Jesus. You got to do this. You got to do this. It was invitate. Come on. They were inviting people like crazy and pulling them in until Constantine, the emperor of Rome, became a Christian in the 4th century. Up until that time, he was killing Christians, and then he became one. You want to know what he did? He built these big, beautiful, expensive, nice church buildings. And Jesus following was no longer a movement. It became an institution. And Christians went inside. And the truth is, they haven't come back out much since. And they stopped living by the very code they had been given by Jesus himself. This thing that we're doing called church used to be made up of contagious inviters. DCC, I want to say this to you. We used to be contagious inviters in this place. And something shifted, something happened, and something has changed. And I understand you get bigger and things just kind of roll and you get staff and all this stuff, but we've lost some of that. And I want to ask you today, will you help us to get it back? It happens one person, one decision, one simple invite at a time. Back in the end of the 1800s, there was a British missionary named C.T. Studd, and he said this. He says, some want to live within the sound of church or chapel bell. I want to run a rescue shop within a yard of hell. I read that 2 or 3 years for the first time. 2 or 3 years into my journey here at DCC, I started crying. I cut it out. I printed it. I cut it out. It hangs on the top of my computer monitor where I'm writing my sermon every single week. I want to keep that in front of me, and here's why. DCC, this is who God has uniquely called us to be. A rescue shop, a MASH unit, very close to the front lines of the battle. We're pulling people inside so that they can bump into and experience Jesus and get the help that they need. If you think about it, a hospital brings you in and fixes you up so that they can send you home. A MASH unit brings you in and fixes you up with the goal of what? Sending you back into the fight. We have been rescued, and we continue to be rescued to help rescue others. And the beauty of today is this. You're already doing it. You're already doing it. You encounter something in your life that makes you happy, brings you joy, changes your life, is fun for you. Whatever you want to say, you naturally share it with people that you're around and people that you care about. There's not a week that goes by in any of our lives where we probably don't, recommend a realtor or a doctor or a mechanic or a hairdresser or a brewery, it is DCC, all kinds of things. A good book we've read or a movie we've just seen. And when we recommend that to people, we don't typically drive them there. We don't follow them there. We don't take them there. What do? We're saying, dude, this changed my life. You ought to check this out for yourself. And so my question for us today is, why not Jesus? Why not simply invite people into a place where you have bumped into and experienced Jesus, and for some of us in a way like you never have before? It's a part of a code. It is a part of the code. It's a part of the code that we're to live our lives by. It's a part of the code that leads all of us to the life that we came in here looking for today. And so, yes, I want you to dig deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into your own story. I do. Dig, dig, dig. Nope, you're not there. You're not to the bottom. Keep going deeper. Invite Jesus into that space in your life. Experience his rescue and all that he came to do for you. Yes, 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 yes. Do that. Dive deeper into your story. And no, you don't have to do anything as you sit in this room today to be loved by God. You don't have to do a single thing. No, he loves you no matter what. But why not take that love and point someone else to that love that you've experienced so they can experience it for themselves too? It's who you have been created to be, and it's what you've been created to do. Most of us have not been created to be experts. All of us have been created to be friends. So, who is it in your life and story you need to say come and see to this week, next week, the week after that? What would your life look like if this became a part of your code in such a fearful world? We really do need a fearless church. Let me pray for us. Jesus, I just sense that there's some feeling in here that we just feel like we just don't measure up. And today we have this tendency, and the enemy wants to come into this and say, see, there's just another thing that you're doing wrong, that you don't get, that you're messing up, and God's disappointed in you. He's so discouraged by you. And that's just not true. And so we come against that. Any message that comes our way that, hey, you suck as you're trying to follow Jesus, that's not from you. And so we say no. And Jesus, before we get busy doing stuff for you, we know there's a greater work that you want to do in us. And that you're saying to us, I want to do more in you. There's more rescue available to every single of our hearts as we sit here today. So Jesus, we just invite you to come, to continue to do the great work that you've started in us. Would you rescue us? Would you continue to rescue us? And then would you equip us and give us the courage to overcome our fear and to stand up and do the little things that will help us be a part of someone else's rescue story. That's our prayer today, Jesus. Come, do what it is only you can do in us. Come and do what it is only you can do through us. In your name, amen.
Serving with joy means that you're having fun while you're serving, because serving is so fun.
Just being a good neighbor. helping other people.
A pink nose and cold fingers. So right now I'm picturing an 11-year-old girl using this bedroom and enjoying it, and that brings me a lot of joy.
But our purpose actually is to alert people to the reign of God and to partner with our cities to actually give people a taste of the world which is to come.
I'm not only touched by it, but I'm overwhelmed by it in terms of how they've been able to coalesce their forces and really make a positive change for the community.
Because I Love You is an opportunity to show God's love to the community.
It's really all about us serving together and doing something for others.
I was having fun, making the bench because it would make some people happy.
Joy is felt when we come together as a community like this. Laughter, smiles on people's faces, and just being a part of something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah. Hey, so that's the highlights from last weekend, what happened in our city. If you weren't around, 3,000 plus people, about 3,200 people hit the streets. About 100 projects around the city, made a huge statement, showed the love of Jesus, no strings attached. I want to encourage you and challenge you. Next year, we're going to push for a higher number. It wouldn't surprise me if it's 5,000 or 6,000. So the week of October 4th is the week next year. Go ahead and mark your calendar. If you didn't do it this year, please, please, please sign up. We're going to do it again next year, even bigger and even better. You know, this is the time of year, DCC, where we turn a corner. We actually start to turn that corner in August, and we do it with backpacks for kids going back to school, and you were amazing. Over 900 backpacks this year, just blew the minds, and so many kids benefit from that. And then we do City Serve, and now the next big thing for us is coming up in a couple weeks. It's Halloween. It's our trunk or treat event, and we need your help. So would you just pound the candy? I mean, the barrels are out. Fill those things up. If you could bring a bag a week between now and then, or 2 bags or 10 bags or whatever God lays on your heart. I think you just said 20. Yeah, if you do that, that would really help us out. And if you sign up somewhere to help, here's the thing. I don't know what the number was last year, 6,000, 7,000 people. We served up 4,000 hot dogs or some crazy number like that last year. It was unbelievable. We need help all over the place, so go out the doors, go to the garage, sign up. The info booth probably help you too. Sign up to help and just pound the candy, bring it in, because I promise you, we have to supplement and buy candy every year just to give candy to all these little munchkins who go home and have a sugar high, and it's a great night. So there's that. Hey, if you have questions about our church and you want to know anything that's going on here, go out the doors, turn left, room called the garage. If you want prayer, under the screens to my right and my left, right after I say see you next week, there'll be people there to greet you and talk with you and pray with you. Last but not least, if you believe in what God's doing here, you want to get on mission with us financially, and you want to give, we don't pass anything, we don't pressure people. We hang boxes on the wall by the door, or you can hit our app or our website if you choose to do it electronically. Hey, I'll be out by the fireplace if you want to catch me and talk with me. Good having you here with us today. Thanks for braving the cold. Hope to see you again next week.
drifting apart, getting harder to hold you. Days getting dark and the nights are growing cold. Are we burning out? Swept out of sight, rolling out on an ocean. Let's cut all the ropes and get lost in the moment. If our hearts are alive, maybe then they might send us back to the sun. Now I know that we're losing light. Our love is dying. I'm cold on the floor, like a falling star that shines no more. Take me back to where it was before, when we were on fire.
care.